Hello, dear friends. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to another episode of Developer Diaries. This is going to be not so much specific to the world of the Rended Wall, which is the game that I am creating, but it will be in reference more specifically to the practice of game mastering and GMing, DMing, however you want to refer to it. Essentially leading game sessions and narrating the story, all of those things, and kind of what goes into that process, what goes into the process of just getting a game session ready for your players. And there's a lot that goes into it, and so I think that some of these things are things that players aren't always fully aware of. And so I just kind of want to talk about some of those things. I have my virtual tabletop pulled up in the background. I use Fantasy Grounds. There are a lot of other really good virtual tabletops out there. Roll20 is another super popular one. Whichever one you use, it is going to essentially contain all of the tools necessary for running a game. It will present all sorts of visual aids like images for the game, pictures to kind of immerse the players, as well as all sorts of other things, notes on the story, notes on the character sheets, items, everything, enemies that you'll run into. It's all contained within a program. So it's like the virtual version of what game masters would do on paper years ago before some of these technological things were made available. So it makes for a very valuable and fun tool set for game masters to use. And so I want to talk about that a little bit more in depth today. I have my uh, Cthulhu game. So I'm running a pulp Cthulhu. So it's set in the 1920s, and it has investigators. The player characters are pursuing and investigating ancient magical relics and mythological creatures in the 1920s that all kind of tie into the Cthulhu mythos. So some cosmic horror elements, some basic horror elements, as well as just historical fiction, right? So that's the game that I currently have pulled up, and I want to use this as an example of what kind of effort goes into preparing a session when you already have a lot of things ready. When the previous session left off in kind of the middle of a scene, essentially, and that allows the game master to have a lot of things pre-prepared and makes for the next session having much less preparation necessary because you've already done it. So, for instance, this one, the players right now are on board the Orient Express in 1926, and they are headed from Bucharest to Budapest and investigating a strange supernatural murder that took place. So it's kind of a mix of Murder on the Orient Express, along with an actual a Call of Cthulhu game called Horror on the Orient Express. I'm using some of those elements as well. So to prepare for the session a couple of sessions ago, I got all sorts of things ready. For instance, I downloaded a map. This was created by Reddit user Jack in the Box about 5 years ago, and I'm using it as a template, as just like a basic map for characters to be able to move around in. And this allows, you can click on a player character, and if they are logged in, they can move their player around just like they would a miniature on a map if it was in real life instead of virtually. And then they can kind of investigate and really visualize where they are on the train and what's happening in this scene. But it's all been taking place basically within the course of one night for 3 sessions now. So I've had a lot of stuff ready. I've had notes ready for all of our various like NPCs. I'm kind of clicking around on some of them, and there are also images associated. So I was able to, for a game session set in the 1920s, I went online to Google and just found a lot of historical old black and white pictures of random people, some actual historical figures, others are kind of unnamed at this point, or I wasn't able to find a name, and so I'm using them as a template. As a visual aid for some of my NPCs. So, for instance, Boris here has a very, unique and interesting uh, face and countenance, and so I'm using him as a very important NPC in the story. And I was not able to find a name for this actual man, and so I am calling him Boris. You kind of blend real life with the fiction in order to make it work, right? Um, but as I said, all of these things were kind of ready several sessions ago. And so to prepare for the session that we had on Thursday night, which is about 2 days ago when I'm recording this video, I didn't have to do very much prep at all because my players were in the middle of investigating a murder, talking to witnesses and suspects and things like that, and so they're in the midst of it. And I already have the notes written out for who the NPCs are, how they're involved in things, what they know, what they don't know, things like that. And so because I already had all of that stuff ready, my prep for Thursday night session was very minimal. I didn't really have to do a whole lot other than just get my virtual tabletop ready. And so when that's the case, it's not as much prep the moment of, but it's a lot more prep beforehand. And that's the thing with game mastering is you do a lot of preparation in advance. I mean, all of your preparation is in advance. And then when the game session is happening, you use all of those materials to run the session. And so that is very front loaded as far as the game master's work and effort. And then as the story progresses, obviously you're writing more, you're pulling in more things. If they go to a new area, you might have to make a new map or find new and write up new NPCs or things like that. So there is ongoing effort, but it's at the beginning of a story that the most effort goes in. I've heard a lot of professional game masters talk about preparation and say that the basic rule of thumb for preparation is for every 1 hour of gameplay that you anticipate, you should be doing at least 2 hours of preparation. And I think that's pretty accurate. I really do. I think that like I said, it balances out. You do a lot of preparation beforehand, and then as the story progresses, you keep doing prep, but it's maybe not as much as at the beginning. So, as an example of that, I am going to pull up my Fallout campaign. So this is something we ran a session 0, so my players have their characters built. They have a basic idea of what is going on with the world of the story that I plan on telling, and then they are ready to jump in with our session 1 tonight. So I'm recording this in the morning of, and then tonight I'm having my Fallout session 1 with my players. So um, what ends up going into this, it was quite a bit. So I'll pull up the images first. The Fallout virtual tabletop has a ton of resources, so much, so much. They have, I'll pull up the list of NPCs as well. These are like all the official NPCs. There's, as you can see down here, there's 4 pages of this list. So it's just like probably 100 at least of these NPCs, and then the images also. A lot of the artwork is included, and so I'm using a lot of the official artwork. So and I'll expand this so it's a little bit easier to see. This is a group of uh, Brotherhood of Steel paladins jumping out of their vertibird, which is their aerial transportation, ready to go on some form of mission or enter combat or something. This is official artwork, and so I will be using this. But then I also went and did a lot of Googling and finding things. So I want people, when they pick up an item in the game, I want my players, to be able to visualize it and see what that looks like. And so what I did was I went through and I found pictures online of a lot of the items from the game. And this is again official artwork that when you are playing a Fallout video game, you can pull this up and see it in the world and see the visualization. So I found that asset online and imported it into the virtual tabletop and linked it to each of these items. So when a player picks up a 44 Magnum revolver to use as a weapon, they can see what it looks like and visualize that and really help with the immersion. So it's all of those things, making all of those things available for your players to help them enjoy the world and explore the world and immerse themselves visually with their imagination into the gaming experience. And a big part of that for me is maps. So a little bit of insight into me. When I was a kid, I was really into Legos, as many small kids are, and adults. I still love putting Legos together. Not gonna lie, you can probably see some of those little. You know, there's a bird back there, and I have a full botanicals collection because I love those. I think they're beautiful. Legos are great, but when I was a kid, I made Lego sets with collapsed bike boxes, which are really long and flat and you know lots of space. So I made Lego worlds essentially with trees and castles, and then I used paper mache, you know, like shredded newspaper with like what flour and water, I think, and made paper mache mountain ranges and things like that. And so, as a kid, I was doing this already, and so as an adult now, I get to upgrade my toys essentially, and do the same thing, but in a much more advanced and detailed kind of way. So, if by any chance any of my Fallout players are watching this, spoiler alert, please do not watch the next few minutes because I will be showing off my full map of the world for my Fallout campaign. So you've been warned. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to see any of that, just click off right now. But in the meantime, anybody else that's watching and you're just interested in the process, this is what I made for my Fallout campaign that is set in the state of Colorado. So I live in Colorado, and I have lived in Colorado for the majority of my life. And so Colorado is home for me very much. And the Fallout universe has some lore already written for Colorado and what might be going on. Fallout is set in the 2200s, several hundred years after or 200 years about after a nuclear apocalypse has blasted away the world. And so the world is kind of rebuilding civilization and such. And so I created a map of Colorado as a world map for my players to explore. These are all places within Colorado that my players can go to if they so choose. So I prepared this for them as an almost like an open world kind of thing, and I have a story for them. So I will be pointing them in certain directions, but it's not railroaded. If they choose to go somewhere else, they absolutely can. And I want that to be available for them as we go through our adventure. So this is what I did. I made uh, you know rectangle, basic rectangle, because that's kind of the basic shape of Colorado. I discovered on a globe, Colorado has actually 697 sides because it's not perfectly straight. You can't do that on a orb. So Colorado is actually, when it wraps around the world, it actually has 697 sides, which is kind of amazing. But for the purposes of a flat map, I just made a rectangle. I also pulled up a map of actual Colorado and then traced out a lot of the major highways, which is what you see the lines are. And then I just started plugging in both real locations that can be used in a post-apocalyptic setting and the fictional locations that are already written into the lore. So, for instance, Vault Zero is where Cheyenne Mountain would be in real life, but it is basically like the center of the vault network. And so vaults are these underground places where it was designed for people to live out the nuclear apocalypse and come up once the world is uh, safe to live in again. But that's been 200 years, and so there might still be some survivors in some vaults. Some vaults are completely deserted. The citizens have either died or left the vault already at this point. Depends. So Vault Zero is kind of the center of that, and it's right around Colorado Springs. And then north of that would be Denver, but in the Fallout world, that is referred to as Dogtown. It's kind of overrun by lots of packs of wild dogs and such. But then, as you can see, I pulled in places like Buena Vista, which is a real place, Monarch, Colorado, also a real place, Royal Gorge. So these are actual locations in Colorado that we can use in a alternate timeline, alternate future kind of. And so these are all locations. I have a huge document written up. Again, this is kind of that time and work and effort that goes into the beginning of a story. I have a lot of notes written up for every single location here, just in case players go there, and then I'll have more detailed maps of Denver slash Dogtown or Coast Springs, or if they go into a vault, I'll have smaller scale maps that they can walk around in. I'll pull up an example of that actually. Let me just minimize this, and then I'll pull up the vault. This was included in the resources for Fallout for the virtual tabletop. So this is not by my design. The Colorado map that was something I created from scratch, but this is the map that they include, and they also include cool effects. So when the players walk into this area and they find this vault door sealed up, there's flashing green lights. There's kind of just an ongoing part of the electrical system of the vault. And so this is something that is worked into the map. And so it again helps with that realism and stuff. I didn't do this, but you can create maps like this on your virtual tabletop, or I use Incarnate, Inkarnate, for a lot of my map making. It's a great program. Uh, Not a sponsor. I'm just saying I use it. Um, so those kinds of things are available, and it's just like that train map that I showed you earlier, where you can move the icons around, or players can do that to explore places, and then you allow them, encounters or looting opportunities to find new items and new equipment and things like that. But this is the world map, where players are going to be looking at the most. They will not see all of these things. They won't know that all of these locations are there. And so they get a much more edited and kind of plain looking version of this until they start exploring, and then they can uncover these places, and then they'll get kind of added to their version of the map as we go. So all of these places are not visible to players, but they could be. They are there for players to find. This is my like master version of the map. So this is all just kind of as an example of, again, that effort that goes into game mastering and being prepared. You have to be ready when you're running a game like this to allow your players to kind of do whatever. And that is unexpected a lot of times. And a lot of people will tell you that improvisation is a huge thing for game mastering, because you have to be ready. You have to just be ready for to yes and your players. If they say, "Hey, can I do this?" It's not going to be as much fun if you say, "Well, no, you can't because I don't have anything ready for that." Like no, you have to be able to tell them like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, you can," and then let's go and let's see what happens. So you have to be ready for just about anything. It's impossible to be ready for everything. So if you are a game master out there and you're listening to this, please cut yourself some slack, give yourself some grace, because it's impossible to be ready for everything. But keep yourself open to everything. Like so that when those things come up, You can yes and your players, and just be honest with them sometimes too. Just be like, well, I don't have a map ready for that place, but we can talk about what it looks like. We can talk about, where you're going, and do the theater of the mind version of the game if you don't have a map ready. But it's best to be as prepared as possible. So that's kind of what I wanted to show off here, was just that concept of just being prepared and being ready. Use the tools that you have. Again, I use a virtual tabletop for my online sessions. That's the best way to do it. But I also, for my real life sessions, I have gone and printed out a bunch of these like poster sized maps for people to lay out. And I have a collection of miniatures that I've invested in because I want my players to be able to immerse themselves into that imaginative storytelling mindset as much as possible. And use the tools you have, embrace that imagination and that storytelling with your players as much as you can, because it will be so impactful to let your players have that freedom. And they will remember that for a long, long time. Trust me. So that's kind of all I want to talk about. Again, I'm not talking about the Rended Wall today. I just want to talk about game mastering in general. But I will end with a little bit of a self plug. If you want to come and play a game with me online, I will throw my links down below so that you can come and sign up. I would love to have you as a player, and come and join my stories, and let's tell some stories and go on some adventures together. I think that would be really wonderful. I also, as a business, I run a business called Dinners and Dragons, which is a in-person personal chef game mastering combo. So I will go to my client's house. I will prepare a themed dinner that's kind of medieval or fantasy themed, typically, to go with a one-shot adventure that I will then host at their house. So they just have me come in. I'll make food. I'll clean the kitchen. I'll do all of that, and then we'll run the game afterwards. So it's a really wonderful thing. I've had a few clients so far, and it's been a wonderful experience for everybody. So I'll throw that link in there as well. If you are in the Denver area, please come and find me. I would love to make you dinner, and again, like take you all on some adventures. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you just kind of hanging out with me as I ramble about games and what I do. So thank you so much for being here. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that wonderful YouTube stuff. And yeah, we'll see you at the gaming table, everyone. All right, take care.